Good evening. I'll now call the City of Cannon Falls City Council meeting for Tuesday, May the 21st to order. Roll call.
Councilmember Duncan,
Here.
Holst,
Here.
Johnson. Here. Mattson,
Here.
McCusker,
Yep.
Schobloom,
Here.
and Mayor Robinson.
Here. All please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Welcome, everyone, to the City Council meeting this evening. This time, the Chair will take a motion to approve the agenda as submitted.
So moved.
All second.
Have a motion by Merle, second by Bill. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carries. Brings us to item 5 this evening, the public input. Citizens may speak to issues not on the agenda. Before speaking, please give your name and address for the minutes. Please limit your comments to 3 minutes. Is there anyone that wishes to address the council on the public input? Seeing there is none, we will move on to item 6, which is the consent agenda. Items on this area of the agenda may be adopted or they may be removed and placed on the business area of the agenda for discussion purposes before approving. For those at home, I'll read the consent agenda. Item A is adjusting correct claims for the accounting period ending May the 17th, 2013. Item B is the meeting minutes for the May 2nd, 2013 City Council meeting. Item C, the meeting minutes for the May 2nd, 2013 City Council work session. Item D is the county library funding agreement. Item E is the Grand Prix bike event. And item F is Resolution 2020 approving a variance for 111 Dakota Street West. Are there any issues that anyone wants to bring down?
I didn't want to bring down D, Robbie, but I just wanted to say that it's nice they got that settled finally.
Yep, that's good to finally get that done. Seeing as there are no items anybody wishes to bring down, the chair will take a motion to approve the consent agenda as submitted.
So moved.
All second.
Motion by Merle, second by Bill. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carries. That moves us to the one item of council business this evening, the Public Improvement Project Homestead Medical Center. Mr. Maroney.
Good evening. Maybe the lights can stay on with that. I think everyone's familiar with the project and location, and I'll point out what the colors mean in a moment. As you saw in the agenda packet, you know that the city and the EDA and Dr. Molinar have been working on the permit for access onto Highway 20 to serve the new nearly completed Olmsted Medical Clinic. And as Greg Anderson and I have been working on this along with Dr. Molinar for the last several months, we've been moving forward with the permit, moving forward with the quotes for the construction, and have found that with the most recent quotes that we received, that they're quite a bit higher than the original engineer's estimate. So with that reality in mind, we've been trying to work through cooperatively again with Dr. Molinar and with Greg's assistance and working through MnDOT. We've been trying to find an equitable solution to address the additional costs that were represented by the quotes for this particular project. So they, I think, caught all of us by surprise. In our considerations here, to go to the graphic, here's the location of the new clinic that's being constructed as we speak. This is Highway 20 going north, County 17 going west out towards the golf course, and here's the location or the planned location for the new street access to come into serve the driveway that will go into the clinic. So the orange is the driveway opening going into the clinic. The blue shows a right turn lane on the east side of Highway 20, and then the road going into serve the driveway into that access. The area in yellow, just to remind the council, is the remnant parcel, as we call it, is currently owned by the Economic Development Authority, and we ended up purchasing that remnant piece, which is a little less than an acre, along with the right-of-way for this road. In the future, the EDA will transfer ownership of that road over to the city. And in the future, there's always been plans then to extend this road beyond the clinic access point east up to Fifth Street, and then ultimately further east to serve Gemini and other potential developments in that area. So that's been the plan that we've been working on for quite some time. The permit with the Highway Department has been a little bit complicated. Greg tells me as of today that we expect to receive permit approval from MnDOT hopefully next week. But what that permit will include is a 150-foot right turn lane off of Highway 20 into the site. We've been discussing since the beginning a 36-foot wide street with curb and gutter to serve not just the clinic but any development that might occur to the east of this site. That has been a cost consideration to Dr. Molinar, who's proposing only at this point to develop this site, but we felt, again, at least from the city's perspective, that having that future road extension option in the future would be important for future development. And the reality is that the yellow piece of property that the EDA currently owns that butts up to property that Gemini owns, in all likelihood, Gemini is going to run into the same issue that we did in terms of getting permit from MnDOT to serve that site in the future. And we would anticipate, at least at the EDA level, that in the future this yellow parcel will be combined with the Gemini parcel to the south, and access probably is going to come off this road, in all likelihood. With that kind of backdrop and I guess reminder of where we've been and where we are now, with the bids that we received, in order to make these numbers begin to make sense to Dr. Molinar and to us, we've got an assessment agreement with Dr. Molinar that the council approved back in February that projected about a $95,000 cost for this road. And you can see by the information that I handed out tonight that the actual quote for that work was just under $164,000. So there was quite a spread. It wasn't just a little bit of money. So we've been working actively to try to bring that number into a scenario that might work for Dr. Carl, and it might work for the city, and it would work with MnDOT in terms of getting an access permit that Dr. Carl needs to serve his site. So the way that we've gone about that is Greg's relooked at the engineering plans, and we do have some storm sewer within the original quote, the $164,000 or so that would be located in this area. And with the redesign, we feel that we can take that storm sewer improvements out of this, do overland drainage for now, and in the future, if and when that street is extended, that we could pick up additional stormwater systems at that point. So that saves about $10,000 in the overall quote, or $9,536. There's about a $16,000 cost to construct the 150-foot right turn lane off of Highway 20. We've learned in the last week that whether this is a municipal street, a 36-foot wide street, or a 32-foot wide street, or a 24-foot wide street, if it's a municipal street, MnDOT has gone now on record and said that there must be a right turn lane off of Highway 20. So it doesn't matter if it's a private street driveway that goes to Dr. Carl's clinic and him alone without our involvement, or it's done as a municipal public improvement, there's going to have to be the 150-foot turn lane on Highway 20. And that's about a $16,000 cost. Now that's blacktop and preparation work included. The adjusted cost to build this 36-foot wide street with curb and gutter in the Hench's bid was about $33,000. Greg has re-estimated, and we kid him a little bit about that, but he's re-estimated that the cost of the street under different bidding period, the one thing that occurred here in the bids is that Dr. Carl's clinic is going to open sooner than when Hench's and everybody else is going to be in town doing blacktop work. So there was a mobilization cost and some extra expense because of the timing of the clinic opening to when the rest of the projects in Cannon Falls are going to get completed. So there was kind of a premium in the quotes that Hench's and the other contractors submitted because of the timing. But Greg feels if we wait for a little bit more favorable bidding climate yet this year, maybe we could build the gravel base, put in the curb and gutter, get the street ready to be paved for a later date. Dr. Carl would have to operate the clinic then for a period of time with the right turn lane off of Highway 20 improved with blacktop, but not the street. Would have to operate for a period of time with a gravel-based street. But during that period of time, if we go ahead with this, Greg will continue to look for favorable bid or quoting opportunities for blacktop and make sure that we get the rest of that road blacktopped this year. And with his revised estimate, he feels that we could save maybe roughly $10,000 with bids that would be more comparable to where he felt that they would have lined up even a month or so ago. So there would be some potential savings with regards to a delay in the blacktop of that street. So the total adjusted cost here, the $144,000 or so, reflects a little bit change of scope by taking out the storm sewer, removing the blacktop, at least on the street right now. It includes the blacktop improvements on the right turn lane, but it's about a $144,000 cost estimate. In lots of conversations with Dr. Molinar, we've come to a reluctant acceptance that we could increase his assessment agreement from the $95,000 for the street improvements up to just under $125,000, and Dr. Carl would be willing to accept that. So we're adding most of the overage back onto the benefiting property owner, in this case, Dr. Molinar. But to really make the numbers work for him, the only other place that we could look to for some additional financial participation was probably the city. And I've looked at a couple of different scenarios with Greg, and at the end of the day, I guess where I felt maybe would be a reasonable proposal to make to this city council would be that in that the EDA owns a little bit less than an acre on the south side of this road that would be benefited arguably by the right turn lane and the bituminous on that street. There would be some corresponding benefit to that. I felt that as kind of an equivalent property owner, at least in frontage, as Dr. Carl's site, that maybe if we split those costs, if we split the cost of the right turn lane equally, and we split the cost of the blacktop only on the street, not any of the subgrade, and there's a lot of gravel that's got to go into this site to build it up before there's blacktop on it. But if we split the blacktop cost, we split the right turn lane cost as a city, that amounts to about $19,500. That number then, if we're willing to do that as a city, generates again about $125,000 cost to Dr. Molinar, which is about $30,000 more than the original estimate. But the reality is, unfortunately, the estimate was low or the quotes were high or whatever, but it is what it is, and we're trying to find a way to equitably, make adjustments here to get the public street built into that site, because we are concerned that in the future, as there is more development to the east of this site, that we're going to want that street in there. Carl has discussed with me at length his preference for a 24-foot private drive, not the public street, to save dollars. The problem with that is MnDOT's going to require that a brand new permit process be initiated for a private drive, and we just don't feel that that's going to work, both in terms of time and ultimately the requirements for that 24-foot street are probably going to be fairly comparable to what the requirements are for us as a public street. So we didn't really necessarily like that, and I didn't personally like that because in the future, if there is development to the east of the site, and Dr. Molinar does build the 24-foot street without curb and gutter, we're left then with an issue of how do we come back as a city and put in an urban section street to serve development east of here, and it would be a complicated set of circumstances, to say the least. So in short, our recommendation is that if we're going to go ahead with the municipal street, the 36-foot street, concrete curb and gutter, right turn lane, that with Dr. Molinar's willingness to accept about $30,000 more of the cost, if we're willing to participate up to the $19,500 cost, that probably gets this moving forward in a way that's consistent with the original plan. The way that we as a city would recoup our investment, we're going to have to hold this money, but in the future, either the EDA is going to sell this property that they own and combine it with a lot next door to create additional development, and or if this street does get extended east, those costs could be recouped, or certainly should be part of the package to recoup those costs in the future. So again, at this point, I think it's reasonable in terms of the magnitude of the investment to expect that we can get that back either in conjunction with the sale of this yellow parcel and or in conjunction with the extension of a street in the future to the east. So one way or the other, when, can't tell you. So again, I think our recommendation, at least at this point, is to go ahead with a concept something similar to what I've handed out and what I've explained here. I don't know if Dr. Molinar has anything that he'd like to add or that I've missed or underemphasized.
You're my spokesperson, so.
Thanks a lot.
I appreciate working with Dave. It's been a process, and I don't think I'm gonna build any more roads after this.
Okay. Has anybody got any discussion?
Well, no, I would just like to say that I think the plan you've worked out here is pretty good. And Carl, I'd like to thank you for stepping forward in a difficult situation to help get this done. And I think the city should be willing to pick up that almost $20,000 too, and get everything going. And if Greg can give us some better prices later in the season here, we can get everything done. Now, my other question would be, and Linnell, maybe you can answer this, on our agenda, we're being asked to.
We would have to modify.
We would not reject the quote per se, we would just modify.
Accept the modified quote from Hench's as laid out here. Yep. Thank you for pointing that out.
Okay.
Yeah, when I wrote that last week, I wasn't exactly sure what I'd be telling you tonight at that time.
Yeah, we'd have to modify that and then make sure that we put in there that on the assessment term and stuff too, correct?
Yeah, just include that in with your motion. You don't have to modify the agenda. Just in your motion, you can put what you want to approve, and that will take care of it.
Okay. Any other questions
I
or
got a couple
concerns?
for Dave. Why are you going to a 36-foot street if cost is such a major thing here?
I'll let the engineer to address part of that. But I think when we first started talking about the extension of this street east and trying to align it back into the Highway 20, County 17 going west, that we felt that the 36-foot width would give us some more options in terms of traffic lanes and traffic movement on that street. The difficult thing here, and Carl's been very clear on this and consistent, that we really don't know right now what the traffic generation might be to the east of this in the future or when. So we felt in working up the original design plans that while the 36-foot section would be a little bit more expensive, it probably would be worthwhile should we get some more significant development east. But I'll let Greg chime in too.
Yeah, the 36 feet allows for a 12-foot eastbound lane, a 12-foot through and left turn lane as you're heading west, and then a right turn lane. At such time, we need to stripe it that way. We're not going to stripe it that way now, but the 36 feet gives us that flexibility of having two lanes then for traffic heading west at the stop sign there on 20. And more than likely, when the road extends east, we might be looking at a left turn lane on 20, so we're going to need those turn lanes to kind of offset each other. So 36 feet gives us that. 32, we don't quite have it.
So you're actually going to have 4 lanes there at that stop sign?
No, there'll be 3. There'll be a right turn lane,
Right?
a left and through lane for westbound traffic, and then a eastbound lane.
Okay.
Each one will be about 12 feet.
And I guess, you know, we started discussing all this like 2 years ago. The whole idea with this road is possibility that it goes up the hill to help feed Gemini and get them all out of coming down by the dairy.
Right.
So, I guess, from Dr. Carl's standpoint, this is an investment for the city in the future. I thought it was pretty good. He was willing to work with us to start with. And I just don't quite feel it's right that he has all this extra cost. And I think the project has to be done. I think there's a way to figure this out and work around it. But the investment that he's making in our community here, as far as jobs and our tax base and stuff, I don't know if it's quite fair to ask him to pick up that much more. And this is supposedly a 36-foot street that's supposed to continue on up the hill to solve some problems there in the future. I think it's a lot to ask of him to pick this up, and I wish we would have another meeting at Public Works or when Aaron is back or something and discuss this more rather than, we got to keep the process going, we got to have the turnaround. but I'd like to discuss other options.
And just let me add, I don't totally disagree with you, Leroy. I will say, and Carl knows this because I've said this before, is that this is a little bit of a different proposition than what we're typically used to because of the need to have a permit on Highway 20. The site, whether it's this clinic or anyone else, would have run into the same issue. We happened to decide back on the Planning Commission conversations that having the outlet for an east road going up the hill probably made sense, and it happened to bisect this site, actually before Carl even came to us with the proposed clinic. So what we ended up doing back with the EDA is we ended up purchasing all of this property to accommodate the road. Carl cooperated with us then, but that wasn't his development plan for that site. But we ended up at an EDA as buying that right-of-way. The alternative to that could have been that we would force, through a subdivision and platting process, the dedication of right-of-way that we need for the street, or a street. And we chose not to do that because that has not been the precedence in this community. So we ended up purchasing at fair market value about 1.5 acres from Dr. Carl, and he was good enough to sell it, and I think it's working out from his standpoint where the building is built. So we purchased some right-of-way. Remember, too, that we also, through the assessment agreement, we ended up agreeing to finance not just the cost of the road, but also a sewer and water access charge. Those are things that a city wouldn't have to do. That was a discretionary decision by the council and by the EDA to involve themselves in this project. But I've always felt very comfortable that the city, working through the EDA, has really extended a lot of cooperation and assistance to getting this project done. Carl didn't love this the first day that he came to visit with me about it. I'm not sure he loves it today either, but he didn't to begin with. But I think the more we worked through this, I think the more he saw that connecting to a state highway is not a slam dunk. And I think we've cooperated all throughout this process to get what I think will be a good project for Dr. Carl, but also gives us some opportunity in the future to address what I think could happen in the future, which again is additional development. So it's been a give and take, I'd say, from the beginning. I don't like this any more than anybody else coming to the city asking for more money. Carl didn't like it either at that point. But the reality is the costs are the costs, and we sure wish we would have known this a couple of months ago, and then maybe we would have had some other options, but we don't.
The other concern I have for Greg is that over the years, probably the past 4 years, we've worked with different projects on that side of the highway, all the way from there, all the way down to across from the gas station down there. And we have a water drainage problem there all the way down that side. At one time, the church was going to buy that land over there, and actually the manufacturing place over there, all that stuff dumps down in behind there. When we get high water, it actually, when I first looked at this, I thought, well, maybe it's kind of a good thing we got that piece of land in case we have to do a holding pond thing over there. So I guess one of my concerns is why we got by with all this, where every new development, including the one out 19 on the way to Lake, has got to have a holding pond. And he's got a lot of square footage of blacktop out there, I assume. So how did we get by without a holding pond? And is there a culvert system that goes underneath this road that is going to feed that land water down towards Senex? And I'm sure you guys discussed this at Planning Commission, but I know there was a lot of concerns in the past over all that, so.
Try to take them in order. The clinic project does have a pond for its building and parking lot because it's adding new impervious surface, so the roof and the paving area. So that pond will drain west under his driveway out to the 20 ditch.
Okay.
At the intersection where the new road ties into Highway 20, we're putting a new culvert in there. And that culvert was sized with the drainage area upstream going up around 20 in mind to continue that flow. I think everyone noticed how much water stood there about a month and a half ago
Right.
in the spring. And the storm sewer that we're taking out now but need to put in when the road moves farther east, that's collecting the street water and directing it back on land And Dave and I have discussed that, you know, when something happens with the yellow piece and the piece to the south, there will probably need to be a pond as part of the road extension and that development, but we can put that towards the back of the lot and not impact
Back
out
in
near the highway. So we're probably reducing the amount of water that's coming down that ditch towards the vet clinic and the dairy inn. Now, when you get down south of Senex and the church lot, that's a whole separate system, although it does flow to the east. This water turns and flows down 17. Once it gets to the dairy inn, it gets into the pipe and then follows the bike trail down past Bergquist.
Okay.
And there also is storm sewer behind the dairy inn and behind the vet clinic that we can use for our pond outlet when or if the road extends to the east and that the Melgard and the EDA parcel develop. So we've put that all in there. The road that we're building in and of itself does not require a pond. And by dumping the water onto the ground and kind of treating it through the ditch and the surface area, we've kind of met that requirement. But the clinic project does, and it does have a pond, and we've reviewed the calculations, and it will collect the water and discharge it at a rate that doesn't exceed the current discharge from the site.
So that length that we blacked out from 20, that we're talking about not doing, your thoughts is if we hold off on that, we would save how much?
About 10 grand if the prices continue to stay the same on what we've seen on our other projects versus what we saw on this one. And I think, as Dave alluded to, it was kind of a timing thing. They had to do the work within like a 3 or 4 week window of the dates we gave them. And I think that was part of what reflected the price. And it's a small quantity. And that played into it too. Now, if we have some more time, get the road done, and we have some more time, give them a wider window to pave the road, we expect that to reflect in the prices. Then they can maybe schedule with whoever the low bidder is, schedule with some other work they have in town. And between the east side project and the interchange on 19, there's gonna be quite a bit of paving going down this year in town. You know, if we can give them a pretty good window to do it and be flexible, and we appreciate the clinic being flexible on paving the road, then I think we can realize some savings there.
I guess my thing is, Dave, I think the city should do more, and I don't think the blacktop should wait. He's gonna blacktop his area, and we're gonna have a 50-foot strip of gravel in there or something. This is one of the things that we always seem to come down to the last minute. Would have been nice to know all this a month ago, 2 months ago. And it always comes down to dollars. But I can't help but believe that I don't like to say this, but we aren't going to hold back a Mayo Clinic blacktop project. And I feel this clinic is just as important to Cannon Falls. And I think there's a way to meet more about this and make it work than to go the way it is. Thank you.
Thanks, Leroy. Anybody else? If not, the chair will take a motion to approve the amended proposal with Dr. Molitor Medical LLC willing to pay $124,767, the city picking up the $19,500. And if the assessment goes above the $124,767, to extend the assessment term to 15 years from 10 years. Is there any further discussion?
Is there any way to make a motion to table this for now, or is this the way we gotta go?
I mean, the motion can be made. We're going to work on this part of it. The reason I feel that everybody's going forward with this at this time is the fact that it's got to be done so he can open the clinic, because if you don't do it, you're going to push back of opening of the clinic at this time. I think he's already got a date pretty much in mind of when he's going to open it. And then from there, we can always come back and discuss moving forward with paving if we, the city, decided we wanted to help pay for that portion of it. We can further discuss that, but I mean, like we say, we need to go ahead and get the road put in there.
Yeah, I don't
So-
want to do anything to hold it up, but I don't like the way it is right now. So I guess what I don't want to do is vote no and it got held up but I don't want to vote yes for the way it is right now. I'd like to discuss it more, so.
Is Public Works scheduled in the next couple of weeks?
Yeah, the
Fourth?
date of our next council meeting.
We have all this blacktopping going on in town. It's going on all over the place. I just find it hard. I mean, I'm not doubting, but I just find it hard to believe that, with all the stuff that's going on, that we're gonna get a better blacktopping price some other time or something. I mean, if it had to wait 30 days or something, that we save $2,500 or $4,500, I would understand. But that we're gonna save that much in the blacktop by waiting till fall or something, I just can't see it.
Well, Dave could correct me if I'm wrong, but we're not saying we're gonna just wait till fall to pave it. I think the direction we're looking for is to get the turn lane and the building of the road started, and then discuss the paving. You know, I think my thoughts were to get that paving out for quotes fairly soon and just give them more time to do it and realize that savings, since not, you're just gonna wait till October to pave.
I agree, and that's my thoughts on the Public Works, that, you know, maybe there's still opportunity to at least talk about that, but there's not going to be a lot of time, because July 22nd was, I think, the date that Dr. Carl was looking at having the clinic open, so that doesn't leave a lot of time.
Yeah, I was kind of shocked when I heard that we still didn't have a permit from the state of Minnesota. And Dave and I discussed this week. I was pretty shocked by that, because I think, presented it in February or something, didn't we?
It's got to go through 50 different places. to get-
And if the state of Minnesota isn't about tax base and what's going on out here, well, we are, and they need to be reminded that this is a tax base for our city, and somebody investing in our city. I don't know why it takes so long to get a permit here. And technically speaking, we're hurrying this up tonight to do this, and we technically don't even have a permit to do it yet. And I assume there's no nice guy stuff and says, go ahead and start, and we'll work it out later. You can't start till you get that permit, do you?
Well, as Dave said, I had a discussion with MnDOT today, and we expect the permit next week.
All right.
Well, I'm gonna go ahead and make the motion that Robbie laid out for us.
I'll second.
We have a motion by Bill, second by Merle. Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
No.
Ayes have it, and motion carries.
Thank you.
That brings us to the last item this evening, which is reports. Mr. Maroney? Greg?
Just a quick update, the East Side Street Project, we had the open house tonight with the residents, had a great turnout, as you can see by all the extra chairs we had to put out. We had good conversation. The plan is to start tomorrow, reclaiming the gravel and blacktop on all parts of the project north of Minnesota Street, and start doing tree removal Friday. And then on Tuesday of next week, they're gonna start with the actual pipe work and the digging, and start on the west end down by Bridge and work their way east on Water Street is the plan for now. And the 3 blocks south of 19, which would be Oak, the 2 blocks of Hoffman, and the block of Vine, work over there won't start till late July based on their schedule right now. And everything should be done by September. So look for construction on the east side project to be starting now.
Okay. Thanks. Brenda?
I do have a few things tonight. This week happens to be National EMS Week, which is May 19th through the 25th. And as part of that, there was a proclamation by the governor for this week, and I'll give a copy of that to Linnell, and I'd like to have that just included in the minutes if I could. As part of EMS Week, traditionally in the ambulance service, we recognize our personnel for years of service, and we did that at our regular meeting last week, and I'd just like to take the time to publicly recognize the people who had specific years of service recognized at that meeting this year. For those receiving pins for 1 year of service this year was Mike Dalton, Whitney Haug, Harley Miller, Lisa Miller, Ryan Qualley, James Roop, Joseph Shuriak, Melanie Strack, and Joseph T. Meyer. We had one individual who also received his pin for 15 years of service, and that was Greg Miller. And I also have to take this opportunity to publicly thank the members of the fire department and the ambulance service for their gift to me. This happens to be my 35th year with the ambulance service, and the fire and EMS staff gave me a weekend off and a trip to a bed and breakfast in Lanesboro, which I enjoyed last weekend, and a play, and it was a marvelous weekend. And they asked, and I had to honestly say, I think it's the first time in the past 30 years that I've taken a vacation and gone somewhere and done something that wasn't EMS related. And I had a marvelous time, and I have to thank those people for that recognition. It was very much appreciated. And I have one more thing I have to mention. Yesterday, as part of EMS Week as well, in my capacity as a member of the State EMS Honor Guard, I was privileged to participate in Brooklyn Park in a ceremony as part of EMS Week with the Bell of Honor. And I'm not sure if anybody's familiar with that, but the Bell of Honor is a traveling monument, if you will, that recognizes veterans and members of law enforcement, fire service, and EMS service who are killed in the line of duty, or veterans who lose their life during war. And the bell will go to their services, and it's tolled 7 times in recognition of their loss. And it was rang yesterday in memory of EMS Week for those EMS personnel who have lost their lives in the line of duty. And you can see it online at bellofhonor.org, and it's a very impressive sight to see. For anybody who's a veteran, a member of law enforcement, fire service, or EMS, if you ever get a chance to see it, I'd highly recommend that you take a look at their website and see what they do. They're a very impressive organization, and in talking to them, I was very impressed in what they've done for the people that they serve. So thank them for that, and that's what I have tonight. Thank you.
Brenda, I'd just like to say thank you to all your years of service and to all the EMT staff for the great job that you do for the city and for the surrounding community. So thanks.
Thank you.
Might have started something there, Brenda, in Lanesboro. You might get used to that.
Chief?
Just a few things. After our last council meeting on Thursday, I received a package from the White House. Wasn't really sure what it was. Turned out to be a note thanking me for sending the president. If you recall, after the visit, I had commemorative coins made. And gave them to the officers who came to assist us and to the consul and some city staff that provided assistance to the police department. And I decided to have them framed. We have some hanging in the office for anybody that hasn't seen them. And I had one set framed and sent to the White House. And received a note back thanking me for that gift. I was kind of surprised. And then included in it was the presidential proclamation for National Police Week. So I was kind of surprised to get that package. On a different note, the water's up again, running fast. This evening we had to send officers out for a couple of individuals that were on the sewer bridge. They had to circumvent the screening to get out there. The officers had to get them back. I just want to remind people that with the river high and the water running fast, please don't go down into the water. Stay away from it. Not only are you putting your life at risk, but you're putting the lives of police, fire, and EMS that are going to have to respond to try to rescue you should you go in. It's just unnecessary for that. Also, in the spring, comes severe weather, sadly, as we know from what happened in Oklahoma. For us, our sirens are all functioning. We have one that is still on just the sound, but the rest of them have the sound and voice. We've been testing them monthly in both the tornado and the flood warnings to ensure everything is lining up and timing right and making some tweaks and adjustments. The next big test we anticipate will probably be the end of June, first part of July, and that'll be a triggered test from the dam. Again, when we get to those larger tests, we ensure that notice is put out in the beacon and that type of thing. This last test, unfortunately, the message that's available within the system to tell people it was a test was not put off. So all that sounded was the tornado warning followed by the flood warning. And that confused people. That was the primary reason that we had it programmed with a message that says this is a test of the emergency system so that people would know. And we're working to ensure that that's set off appropriately in the future's testing. Bike race, we're still moving forward with that. Thank you for approving the event details on that. That'll help me lock in our plans. And by the next council meeting, I will have absolute information on what the impact will be on different streets as far as times that you see the closures and that type of thing. That's all I have.
Thanks. Linnell?
Thank you, Mayor. I'm actually kind of following Brenda's footsteps here, not intentionally, but I just want to let the city council know that we did have an employee recognition breakfast that was held here at City Hall on May 9th. And there were several city employees that were recognized at that event, and I'd like to name those if that's okay with the council. Dave Pagel for 5 years, Afton Otto for 5 years, Jeff McCormick for 5 years, Diane Howard for 5 years, Jeannie Honhart Johnson for 5 years, Chuck Widholm for 7 years, Ron Wickshire for 10 years, Sarah Peer for 10 years, and Bonnie German for 30 years. So I want to thank all those employees for all their time and effort and congratulate them on their accomplishments.
And thank you to those folks. And, the city can't run without them, and they do a great job taking care of our citizens. So thanks to all of them for their service to our community. Merle?
I'll ditto that.
Like Linnell said, I was at the employee breakfast and handed out the certificates and stuff to the folks, and we really appreciate their efforts.
Leroy?
Nothing outside. I'm still working on switching my iPad here.
Nothing for me.
No, sir.
I just want to say congratulations to the Bomber baseball team for winning the HVL championship yesterday. And I think they start play Thursday night in sections here in Cannon Falls, so congratulations to them. Stay safe out there, and at this time, the you know, we'll find out what the legislature, once everything finally comes out of that, what kind of,
Yeah.
anything good that we may have gotten after they finished everything else last night. It doesn't sound too bad, but we'll see what happens once it's all, the dust settles up there. So with that, Chair will take a motion to adjourn.
Second.